Yeah.
Yep. Very good.
And they got some bodies there, man. They'll be okay.
They'll be okay. They'll be okay.
I'm going top 4 on them. So
All right. So who's your top 4 in order again?
I've Sydney,
Yep.
Perth, Melbourne United, Southeast Melbourne.
Okay. And who's your bottom of the table? Wooden spoon.
I have Cairns at the bottom of the table.
Okay. First coach fired. Then that takes us to that one. I know it's something you
There's
can
no
kind
coach fired. No
coach
coach
fired
fired.
this year.
No. Because I
Um.
think the teams that are going to be bad have low expectations anyway.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. And to be honest, I think I think Adam Ford's a good coach, and they're going to have the worst record. But like, I don't think it's going to be too much of his doing. It's just the roster is not great.
Well, yeah, I also agree. I do like Adam Ford as a coach, and I don't like how half of his roster that he's developed is on the Sydney Kings or the Sydney Taipans, as I think I'll call them this season.
Yeah.
But will he have a job next year? Because he's out of contract this year, so that's why he's probably banded around as if anyone is going to get fired, it might be him.
I don't. I think he will probably be back. Just because there is a bit of a gap in good Australian coaches that you can get at a reasonable price. And I'm not sure how much you upgrade. I don't see Cairns going overseas to sign another coach. So he's a natural fit. Of the Aussie guys, he's pretty good.
Yep. Well, who would you rank as the worst coach then?
This is hard, man. It's a tough one in this league. There's some coaches. I'm not going to do a worst coach because there's a bunch of coaches that have a lot of weaknesses, right?
So quickly, run coaches. Perth have really. Southeast Melbourne's Mike Kelly. Gaussian's obviously in for Sydney.
I'll go my order of coaches.
Okay,
top to bottom, leaving out Adelaide.
Yep.
Leaving out New Zealand. I'm leaving out Wells and Kapernan. Yep. Just because they're new, we don't know. I'm not assessing yet.
Pateri Koponen back on about the 2K 6-7 era. Oh, it might have been 2K8. He was a lethal little 10th man, third point guard off the bench.
10th man on the
when you're building your fantasy.
I have Gorgon at 1.
Yeah.
I get everyone will say to me, Gorgon's rotations are terrible, blah, blah, blah. Have you seen the other coaches in the NBL and their rotations? Like Dean Vickerman's rotations are the worst you'll ever see, right? Yeah. Dean Vickerman's rotations, it's controversial here, I know, but Dean Vickerman is the worst. Like, Dean Vickerman is a great defensive coach. He's a good leader, and he's great at influencing the refs. He's a good coach. There's no question. But his rotations are putrid.
Yeah.
But his rotations are putrid to an extent that he needs an assistant coach to run them. Right? Because I think he's actually, this is going to be a hard assessment here. I think he's actually cost Melbourne United a couple of titles with his rotations, right? Over the years in his tenure, right? I've got Brian Gorgon at number 1. Leader of men, man. Like, just, you watch his timeouts, it's just like ruthless. I like his approach. I think that Sydney will go from a bad defensive team last year to being probably the best this year. That would be my projection on them. I also I like the fact that he is a leader of men, and he gets the best out of guys and he inspires guys, which is not common in the NBL. And so I'm very high on Gorge at Sydney. My number 2 pick is Scott Roth. Scott Roth is a weird cat, man. Like, he's a weird cat. Like, he's like, oh man, like, if you're going to play for me, you got to be in a stable relationship. You got to be all this. He has some weird methodology, but I'm not going to argue with the results. He's been great since being here. He's a character. He's another leader of men. He brings this. These guys have like gravitas and, the new word, right? Aura, right? Like, these guys have it in spades. They have this character. And I do think that wins over a locker room. And the rotations aren't bad either. And defensively, they've been very, very good he should not have won a title last year. That team was not a title team. And they won.
Well, the Jordan Crawford part of that is going to be interesting because he benched him when he had to be benched, basically.
Yeah.
And
number 3 is a difficult one for me. I'm going to say Dean Vickerman. but
Yep.
I'm probably the biggest seller in NBL media. No, I'm not NBL media, but the people in NBL Twitter space. I'm
Yeah.
the biggest seller of Dean Vickerman. I just don't like the rotations. Don't think he does a poor job. Oh, the other thing about Gorgon too, which I really like, which I also like about Vickerman, you want to coach as a player who has your back with the refs constantly and will ride the refs constantly, so you don't have to. Gorgon is brilliant at working the refs.
Just one thing on Gorgon there, sorry, is Dash Daniels was on. Sorry, not Dash. Dyson Daniels was on the Kick It Forward podcast with Josh Garlett this week. And one thing that did stand out is how Dyson said that playing for Gorgon is it was just a different experience. He said he hasn't had a coach like that before, which I thought was actually really interesting compared to definitely probably what he's experienced the last few years.
I remember he came in when I was at Nunawading. I was like a Nunawading junior in the later end of the Nunawading thing. And he just came in the building, man. And he just had this gravity in the room. I know that sounds stupid, but like he kind of walked in and like you've got a bunch of like 16 and 17-year-old dudes who are then just like locked in, man. Like everyone was like, whoa, that's Brian Gorgon. You respect this guy. Like he's the man, right? And I think he does command that respect wherever he goes. And I do think there is something to that. As I say, Vickerman at 3 was tough for me. Between Vickerman and Tatum at 3. I like Tatum. I got Tatum at 4. Just simply because, again, I like him as the leader of men. He's come in, he's stamped his authority on the locker room. He's not the greatest X's and O's. He's not the worst X's and O's. No. He's a pretty good coach. Who have I got left? I like Adam Ford or John Riley. I'm going to go Adam Ford. I think Adam Ford's a better coach than John Riley. Just hasn't had the talent, really. I thought the year before he did an excellent job with Cairns, with the Cam, when Cam Oliver was there. I think the year before, right? It was DJ Hogg and the DJ Hogg year. They were a really good team. And when he has requisite talent, he's shown to be pretty good. John Riley, not as bad as what people said he was at the start of the year last year. Not as good as what everyone said he was at the end of the year.
John Riley
he's okay.
Is my most entertaining press conference. Whenever they would pop up on YouTube, like the 2 days before the game or after it, I just always found his press conferences either really funny or just very intriguing. We'll say it like that.
Yeah, he's a character. He toes the line. There's no
and he
question.
He call out the reporters that ask him the same questions over and over again, and I like it kind of when that happens.
Yeah. Schuler, I think. So how many teams have I got left now? Because there's left there. Who am I missing? I've got Schuler's left on the board.
Yeah.
Who else is left on the board?
Sydney, Mike Kelly.
Oh yeah, I got Mike Kelly before Schuler. I think Mike Kelly's a good coach, man. I don't think he deserves the heat he kind of gets either, but he's going to have to turn out a pretty good performance this year to build up that rep again, I think, as a good coach. Again, when he was at Cairns, I didn't think he was as great as what everyone suggested he was when he won Coach of the Year at Cairns that year. But then at the same time, I don't think he was as bad as what everyone said when he started to lose the year after. It's like, talent wins out with coaching, man, at times. And as long as you can, wrangle that locker room, you're in pretty good shape. So that would be my list. And Schuler last, just simply the body of work on Schuler is not there yet. And there were some mistakes last year at Brisbane. Early coaching career, man. It's not me hammering the guy. He's a fine coach. It's just, he's just going to have to grow into the role. That's all.